together. I don't care if it was simplified, if it was very complex. Jerry took his time to listen to the music and to try to interpret what I want, what would the words being exemplified, and so forth. So each time I would present him with a song in the studio, he would do an examination of the song, the interpretation, and it was so easy to work with him. Now, that's very difficult. No problem.
Sorry, guys.
Okay, wait the other way. It's very difficult to work with someone as talented as Jerry, who put his talents to the side and tried to give you what you want.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked with musicians, or I tried to work with musicians that their egos were all around. I couldn't tell them anything. You know, they wanted to do what they wanted to. And sometimes I had to just say, well, Jerry, you're going to have to let this person go. And it was just unfortunate because there were people that really had extraordinary talents. But Jerry, with all of his skills, he was very humble. And he would ask if something wasn't right, he would ask you know, what can I do to make this better? And I would just explain to him, don't do this, don't do that. And so we had really a great rapport. And it's reflecting in the music that we've done.
Yes.
And most of the music is based on scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I said, you know, we can't do anything without God. We know that.
Amen.
Just period.
Amen.
But I also like to thank Diane because people don't know what it is to be married to a musician. Okay, they think, oh, you know, he's getting all the kudos and everything. But what about 2 o'clock at night? He's not home. 3 o'clock. You know, he's driving through traffic, and we know that a lot of events, bad events sometimes, occur during the night. And it's hard. It's hard to deal with that. So Diane has always, you know, she never said anything negative about him practicing. Sometimes he says, I just want to come over and practice. And sometimes I said, Lord, I don't feel like practicing. But he always wanted to practice, and I would be exhausted. And Diane never said, no, Jerry, or, you know, she just stood behind him and beside him, too. And, you know, I just appreciate, you know, he's one of a kind. And God has blessed our family for him to be a part of this family. So I thank you for this presentation. It's beautiful.
First of all, I wanted to introduce C.J. Banks. Your title is
Special Assistant to the President.
Yeah, so he's helping us really get out there in the community, and he is in the music industry as well, and amazing business person. So thank you for being here. I do have 2 other quick things I want to say about Jerry, and I'll still let other people talk, and if not, we can go down for lunch. One thing about Jerry, though, when I would come into my office and I would see him, and years before I had some issues with my mother's health. And every time I'd see Jerry, he'd go, I'm praying for you. And I'll tell you, that just meant the world to me. And I get a hug, and it would just help me get through the day. I'm like, you know what? There's people who are thinking about me. And he always had a way of making you realize that. And I wanted to share a story that I shared with Diane about Jerry in this recording studio here. We had an advanced class that was doing a Christmas carol, God, Yes You Merry Gentlemen. And it was a cover of a version by a Canadian band called the Bare Naked Ladies. And they have a stand-up bass player who's just incredible. And I remember Jerry's like, oh, I'll do it. So I sent him the file. He came up, brought his bass, his stand-up bass that was downstairs. And he's like, please forgive me. I've only listened to this once or twice. And we rolled tape, put it on, and gave him the headphones. And the first time through, he nailed it. He's like, you only listened to it once or twice? And when he finished it, there was a moment of silence. And there, the class was about 10 kids. They all jumped up and started screaming, oh my God, oh my God. And they ran, they started asking him for autographs and taking pictures with him. And Jerry was just like, I'm like, you guys don't realize who you're with right now. This person is a legend. You're going to look back on this in your future and say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I was with Jerry Livingston and he played for my class. So I just wanted to share that with him because that was what Jerry did. He gave himself.
Nice.
So.
I'd like to say Jerry
brother-in-law, and my son Michael could not make it to the memorial service, but knowing what a wonderful person Jerry was, he said, I'm going to write a poem for him. So he took the name Livingston and incorporated it into the poem and called it Jerry a Living Stone, because he was such a testimony to being such a wonderful person and such a wonderful Christian, and that he says Jerry was a living stone. And so, you know, I just cherish that poem because he saw all of those wonderful things in Jerry.
All right.
I was married to Jerry for 37 and a half years. And it was the most wonderful thing that has ever happened to me. And Jerry and I got married, and we didn't go on a honeymoon initially because he had the gig. He had some gigs he had to do. So when we went on our honeymoon, we went to Niagara Falls. It was nothing, real major. And he says, well, I'm going to take my bass with me on our honeymoon. I said, I'm in big trouble. I said, what have I got myself into? But I realized that Jerry's talent was a divine calling.
Amen.
I never interfered, like Edna said. I never interfered with what he wanted to do. I had a steady job, and he had gigs all over the place, and I just kept working. He did his gigs, and I said it would be a disaster for me to try to stop him from his music. This was a divine calling. There was no way I could take him away from that, other than us getting divorced.
Right.
But the thing is, I tried to tell a lot of musicians' wives, because we would always be sitting together, because we were the ones that, well, there's Ronnie. We were the ones that were always sitting at the table, we're there early. Flo can attest to that. We're there extra early. Musicians always have to come some place 4 hours early. And the wives were always sitting at the table, so we would always talk. And the wives would complain, he's going to have to get a regular job. This is too much. And I said, look, if your husband is a real musician, and I mean a real musician, you can't take that from them. That's a divine calling, and God put that in them. You can't take it out.
Right.
All you can do is flow with it. You can't fight against
Amen.
it.
Yeah, yes.
And I didn't I tell you that, Flo? We were, we talk all the time. I said, you can't fight against that. And I never fought against Jerry, with his musicianship, because that was who Jerry was. And at times, financially, we got into fixes and stuff, and he worked different places here and there, but it wasn't for long that he never stopped his music. And I just loved him for that, because I was kind of jealous of him, because he always knew what he wanted to do. And if you ask me, I've had all these different careers. I've been a teacher. I've been a counselor for inmates. I've just been all over the place. He's always been a musician.
Amen.
That's what he always wanted to do. And I said, Jerry, I just so jealous of you. As a kid, he knew what he wanted to do. Yeah. And I just thank God for him. And I said, if God never gives me anything else in my life, at this point in my life, he gave me 37 and a half years with Jerry. And that's all I need. That's all I need. And I just thank God for him, because people say, yeah, I know he changed when he get behind closed doors. I know he got an attitude about it. No, he didn't. He was the same way. He was the same way. Other than the fact that he used to have a thing with Pepsi. And my son Eric, Jerry would be at a gig for hours. He would come home dreaming about this Pepsi in the refrigerator. My son would go in there and drink a 2-liter bottle of Pepsi. I said, go to your uncle's house or something. And Jerry would come home, open that refrigerator. Where's my Pepsi?
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
I told my son,
Out of all things, that's a
I
good
said,
thing to
why
do.
do you do that? Why do you drink your father's Pepsi? You know he's looking for that Pepsi. But he would make a joke out of it. We would laugh and stuff. And I tell my son, you gotta go live with somebody in Atlanta for a while until the Pepsi thing, we get over the Pepsi. But Jerry was just such a good person, like you guys know. Just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful person.
Yes.
And we never had big major blowouts or anything like that. The only thing Jerry insisted on was picking out our cars. And the last car we got is so expensive. And I said, Jerry, we came here to get 2 cars. You know, we can't afford that car. And he would just sit there. He says, I want my wife to be safe. I want my wife to be safe. I said, Jerry, just admit you just want this car. But I ride that car now. I've never had any trouble out of that car. And I just could hear it in my ear, him saying, I want my wife to be safe. I never had any trouble out of this car. But I just thank God for Jerry because he just touched so many lives. We'd be at little parties and stuff, and he'd be in the corner talking to little kids. Yeah. But you like instruments? You want to play instruments? And next thing I know, he's taking a guitar or a horn out of the house. I said, who are you giving that to? Oh, my nephew, so-and-so's son wants to play the guitar. And he would just give his instruments away. And I said, Jerry, I just bought you that for Christmas. But he didn't care. He said, I can get something else. I can get something else. Don't worry about it. But he was just so interested in people and music. Don't say you like music around Jerry. That was it. He went after you. He went after you. A little kid, anybody. But he just was so passionate about sharing his love of music with everybody else. He wanted everybody to love music like he did.
Absolutely.
You know, I've got keyboards, I got a horn, I got timbales and all that stuff. He's buying me all this. I mean, I played the piano just barely. But if I said I wanted something, next thing I know, it was in the house, you know. But I just thank God for Jerry because, like Linda said, he was an angel. And the Bible talks about entertaining angels unawares. And I honestly believe that Jerry was an angel put here on earth. I just believe that because it wasn't 37 and a half years. I think I saw Jerry get upset maybe 2-3 times at the most. And that was only because somebody was bothering his children or bothering me or saying something to me. Otherwise, he just was just such a cool, even Steven kind of guy. He never bothered people. You know, even when the people came and did plumbing at our house and I didn't think they did a good job, babe, don't pop. I said, Jerry, no, they got to do this job over again. Don't pop, don't say nothing. He was just so kind to everybody. And I just thank God for blessing me for 37 and a half years with the most marvelous person I've ever met. All right.